Everything was normal. Then suddenly a car slammed into the wall. It was quick, scary, and happened right before the playoffs.
You see the 19? Oh! What a save! Oh, no!
What a hard hit for the 19.
Fans were shocked. Big names got involved. People started picking sides. What came next changed things in NASCAR in a big way. It started as just another hard-fought NASCAR race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But by the time the checkered flag waved, Austin Hill had gone from playoff hopeful to the center of one of the most talked-about controversies of the season. And Dale Earnhardt Jr.? He wasn't buying the excuses.
NASCAR suspends Austin Hill for intentionally wrecking Aric Almirola, a decision that will have a huge impact on this year's playoff.
The wreck itself was jarring. On lap 91 of the Xfinity Series Pennzoil 250, Austin Hill appeared to hook Aric Almirola in the right rear, sending him straight into the turn 4 wall. It wasn't just a bump or a squeeze. It was the kind of contact that stops hearts and raises eyebrows. Hill was immediately hit with a 5-lap penalty during the race. He'd end up finishing 34th, just ahead of Almirola in 35th, whose day was done after that violent crash. Initially, that seemed like the end of it. NASCAR had acted, and Hill had been punished. But just a few days later, the situation escalated. NASCAR came down harder, suspending Hill for one race and stripping him of all 21 of his playoff points. Though he was granted a waiver to remain playoff eligible, the message was clear. This wasn't going to be brushed off. That's when the real debate began. Austin Hill, for his part, didn't hesitate to defend himself. Standing in the garage at Watkins Glen, he doubled down on his innocence. According to Hill, what happened at Indianapolis was nothing more than a racing incident. Not only did he insist that he hadn't intentionally wrecked Almirola, he said he'd even shared SMT data with NASCAR to prove it. I know that when I go to my grave, Hill said, that it wasn't done on purpose. He wasn't angry, he claimed. He hadn't lost his cool. In fact, if he'd really wanted to retaliate, he said he would have done it somewhere else on the track, turn 1, for example, where he could have moved Almirola out of the groove without risking a violent crash. He believed the data would show it was a mistake, not a malicious move. But that explanation didn't sit right with everyone, least of all Dale Earnhardt Jr. Speaking on his podcast, Dale Jr. Download, Earnhardt Jr. didn't mince words. From his perspective, the incident wasn't just a misjudgment or bad luck. It was avoidable. It was dangerous. And yes, it looked intentional. This isn't a hey, Austin Hill deserves to be parked. Deserves another suspension. This is, though. Hey, Austin, could you take it easy?
This isn't the right hook. This isn't a, hey, Austin Hill deserves to be parked, deserves another suspension. This is, though.
He was just getting started. According to Earnhardt Jr., NASCAR's disciplinary system had long suffered from inconsistencies. Penalties often seem to vary depending on the track, the drivers involved, or the severity of the result. But to him, the rule should be simple. If you right hook someone and cause a wreck like that, it doesn't matter where it happens or how fast you're going, you get suspended. Then came the kicker. Earnhardt Jr. made it clear he wasn't buying Hill's version of the story. On a later episode of his podcast, he put it bluntly. Even though he still says that he didn't do it intentionally at Indy, I don't buy it. I don't think anybody does.
This is not the same thing that happened at Indy. Even though he still says that he didn't do it intentionally at Indy, I don't buy it. I don't think anybody does.
That statement echoed through the NASCAR world. It wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was a public challenge to Hill's credibility from one of the sport's most respected voices. For fans and analysts alike, it was now more than just a racing incident. It was a question of truth, accountability, and whether NASCAR was prepared to hold its drivers to a consistent standard. Aric Almirola, the victim of the crash, didn't leave much to interpretation either. He called the incident violent. The implication was clear. This wasn't a mere racing deal, it felt like an attack. The controversy split fans and commentators right down the middle. On Reddit's r/NASCAR community, some fans sided with Hill. They pointed to his calm demeanor, his consistent story, and the data he said he'd submitted. One user even suggested Hill might have genuinely convinced himself it was unintentional, saying, I honestly believe he has convinced himself it was unintentional. I feel like he mentally overwrote that part of his memory. Others weren't so forgiving. They viewed the move as reckless at best and malicious at worst. They echoed Earnhardt Jr.'s concerns about the precedent it would set if NASCAR didn't take incidents like this seriously. Interestingly, some media members also began to change their tune. A writer from Slicks and Sticks admitted to having second thoughts. Initially critical of Hill, he later said that after watching Hill's interviews and seeing how consistent he was in his defense, maybe the driver really didn't mean to do it. Maybe, just maybe, it was a mistake. But that's the problem with moments like these. Intent is nearly impossible to prove. Unless a driver admits it outright or the evidence is overwhelmingly clear, everything else becomes speculation. That's why Earnhardt Jr.'s comments mattered so much. He wasn't just guessing, he was making a judgment based on years of experience behind the wheel. He's been in those situations, seen those kinds of moves, and knows what goes through a driver's head in the heat of battle. So when he says he doesn't believe Hill, people listen. For NASCAR, this wasn't just about one wreck. It was about setting a precedent. The decision to suspend Hill and strip his playoff points was about more than just punishment, it was a signal to the rest of the field. Aggressive driving is one thing, but if it crosses the line into dangerous, retaliatory, or reckless territory, there will be consequences. Richard Childress Racing, Hill's team, chose not to appeal the decision. That, too, raised eyebrows. If they truly believed Hill had been wronged, why not fight it? Instead, they seemed to accept the punishment quietly. Still, the damage was done. Hill's playoff hopes took a massive hit. Even with the waiver, climbing back into contention would be an uphill battle. More importantly, his reputation took a hit, a mark that could stick far longer than any suspension. For Almirola, the consequences were physical and psychological. Wrecks like that stay with a driver. The violence of the crash, the shock of being turned head-on into the wall, and the lingering question of whether it was personal, all of it adds up. The NASCAR community will keep debating what really happened that day in Indianapolis. Fans will argue, drivers will take sides, and the media will keep digging. But one thing is certain, the conversation isn't going away anytime soon. And as long as drivers are willing to make bold moves and tempers continue to flare under pressure, the line between hard racing and dangerous retaliation will always be a little blurry. Whether Hill meant it or not, he's now part of a much bigger story, one that goes beyond one race or one wreck. It's about trust, judgment, and what kind of sport NASCAR wants to be. Dale Earnhardt Jr. made his stance clear. Now the rest of the NASCAR world has to decide where it stands too. If you want to see more wild moments like this and hear what drivers really think, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what happens next.
Kyle Busch blocks in the 48. Kyle, right rear hanging out, which is legal. I would have loved if I was the 48 that he would have got a little further in his box, but hey, Kyle Busch did everything he was allowed to do.
Maybe he feels like the 48 got too deep in his box and didn't allow him to get where he needed to get.
I don't know, but I'm going to keep an eye on this. Watch this as we come back.
What happens when a two-time NASCAR champion reaches his absolute breaking point? Kyle Busch just showed us at Iowa Speedway, and it wasn't pretty. The veteran driver unleashed an F-bomb-filled radio rant that had the entire NASCAR world talking. This wasn't just another heated moment. This was a complete meltdown, years in the making. Kyle Busch's Iowa nightmare started before the race even began. Saturday's practice session looked promising. The 40-year-old was running second fastest in his group, pushing his Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet to find that extra tenth of a second. Then, disaster struck. Entering turn 1, Busch felt confident after a strong run through turns 3 and 4. Felt really good in 3 and 4 there, I throttled up, Busch explained after the crash. Car stuck well, and I'm like, okay, the right rear is good, let's go, and drove it off into 1 with a little bit more trust factor in it, and obviously it wasn't there. The number 8 Chevrolet got loose. Busch overcorrected. The car snapped sideways and slammed headfirst into the wall. Flames erupted from the front end as the primary car was destroyed beyond repair. Got a little bit loose and overcorrected and just smacked the fence, Busch said. The crash forced his team to work through the night preparing a backup car. For a driver sitting 81 points below the playoff cutoff line, this spelled disaster. Busch would start 37th, dead last in the field. The psychological impact was immediate. Busch admitted his trust in the RCR cars dropped to 0 after the wreck. I was probably built up to about 75–80% trust. Now I'm back to zero again, he said. Sunday brought the Iowa Corn 350, and Busch faced an uphill battle from the rear. Starting 37th in a backup car would test every ounce of his championship experience. Stage 1 showed modest progress. Busch nursed the backup machine from 37th to 33rd position. Not spectacular, but survival mode was the priority. Stage 2 delivered the breakthrough. Busch clawed his way through traffic, showcasing why he's a 63-time Cup Series winner. Strategic calls from crew chief Randall Burnett put him in position to capitalize. When the checkered flag waved for Stage 2, Busch had climbed to 5th place, earning crucial stage points. The momentum felt real. The backup car was responding. Maybe this weekend from hell could be salvaged after all. Then came lap 169. Shane Van Gisbergen's spin-off turn 2 brought out the caution flag. Cars flooded pit road for service under yellow. Iowa Speedway's narrow pit road layout created immediate problems. Busch's pit box sat directly next to Alex Bowman's number, 48 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. As multiple cars hit pit road simultaneously, traffic became a nightmare. Busch found himself trapped. The angle required to enter his pit stall created a traffic jam. His awkward entry blocked Bowman's smooth approach to the adjacent pit box. Bowman wasn't happy about the delay, but if he expected an apology from Kyle Busch, he clearly forgot who he was dealing with. That's when Busch exploded. NASCAR reporter Steven Taranto captured the raw audio that sent shockwaves through the NASCAR community. Over his team radio, Busch unleashed a profanity-laced tirade that would become instant legend. "Go tell the 48s to fuck off. It's a shitty situation. We all fucking suck. What do you want me to fucking do?" But Busch wasn't finished. He threw his hand out the car window in a gesture clearly directed at Bowman. The message was unmistakable. This wasn't just about a pit road traffic jam. This was the culmination of years of frustration boiling over in one volcanic moment. The "we all fucking suck" comment revealed everything. Busch wasn't just mad at Bowman. He was furious with his team's performance, his own struggles, and a season spiraling out of control. Consider the context. Busch had just destroyed his primary car in practice. He was starting last in a backup. He was 81 points below the playoff cut line with 3 races remaining. Every position mattered. Every point counted. The pit road incident amplified all of that pressure into one explosive moment. Bowman kept his composure and finished 7th, earning his 5th top 10 result in the last 6 races. Meanwhile, Busch's frustration continued mounting. Busch's meltdown reflects a deeper crisis. The 2-time champion hasn't won a race since the Worldwide Technology Raceway in 2023, his 3rd career victory with Richard Childress Racing. His 2025 statistics paint a troubling picture. After 23 starts, Busch has managed only 2 top 5 finishes and 7 top 10s. These numbers represent a dramatic decline from his championship years. The playoff situation adds another layer of desperation. Busch trails Chris Buescher, who occupies the final playoff spot, by 73 points. With 3 races remaining, that's a massive deficit to overcome through points alone. His only realistic path to the playoffs? Win one of the next 3 races at Watkins Glen, Richmond, or Daytona. Busch's post-race comments revealed the technical issues plaguing his season. Despite fighting back to a 20th place finish, remarkable considering his starting position, the fundamental problems remained. "We started the weekend in a deficit after going to a backup car on Saturday, and spent most of the day Sunday just battling for track position in our Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen Chevrolet," Busch explained. Crew chief Randall Burnett made some race strategy calls that got us into the top 10 and earned us some stage points, but we lost that track position in Stage 3 and struggled to return to the front. The core issue? Our Chevy couldn't turn in traffic. Even with the freshest tires and dirty air didn't help. We busted our behinds out there today, but didn't have enough. Busch's struggles highlight a broader challenge with NASCAR's next-gen car. His historical strengths haven't translated to the new platform. Take Watkins Glen, the next race on the schedule. Busch has 2 career wins at the road course and was historically dominant there. Since joining RCR in 2023, he hasn't managed a single top 10 finish at the track. Richmond presents a similar story. Busch has 6 total wins at the short track, making it one of his strongest venues historically. In the next-gen era, 0 wins in 6 starts since 2022. Even Daytona, the final regular season race, offers limited hope. In 40 career starts at the Super Speedway, Busch has just one victory. The next-gen car hasn't produced a Daytona win for him either. Busch's explosion occurred against a backdrop of broader NASCAR frustration at Iowa. Denny Hamlin voiced similar concerns about the racing product. Hamlin criticized NASCAR and Goodyear's tire choice, sending Dale Earnhardt Jr. a screenshot with the message.
On Saturday night, and I said, can you believe that we tire tested here? Not we, the 11 car, but NASCAR and Goodyear tire tested here, and this is the tire that they came up with, is the one that had 0 fall off after 50 laps.
The tire compound created passing difficulties that frustrated multiple drivers. Hamlin explained that the difference between first and 30th place was only 0.3 of a second, making overtaking nearly impossible.
It just makes it extremely difficult, and really the only time you see those passes is when chaos breaks out, either on restarts or when the leader catches the back of the pack, and that's what we as drivers are most frustrated about.
Busch's playoff hopes now rest on 3 vastly different challenges. Each track tells a different story about his remaining chances. Watkins Glen requires road course mastery. Busch's 2 career wins there came in a different era. His next-gen struggles at road courses suggest this won't be his salvation. Richmond demands short-track expertise. 6 career wins prove Busch's historical dominance, but the next-gen car has neutralized many of his traditional advantages. Daytona offers superspeedway chaos. 1 win in 40 starts isn't encouraging, but anything can happen in a restrictor plate race.
Has there been a shift that you've noticed of like people are like, this, let's get this guy out of here. He's too good.
Yeah, especially when you got the 3 races in a row, and then people make these comparisons on the internet. Same stats as Tony Stewart or Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon.
Denny Hamlin.
I'm like, I know it's not the same. Like, I'm not an idiot, and I don't ever compare myself to those guys, but that obviously starts the online talk, and then people.
Shane Van Gisbergen made a stunning declaration about Brad Keselowski that's completely reframing the playoff format debate. With only 3 races remaining in the 2025 regular season, SVG's powerful message is revealing the true colors of NASCAR's critics in ways nobody saw coming. NASCAR finds itself in the middle of a heated playoff debate after Joey Logano captured the 2024 Cup Series title with the worst average finish in championship history. Demands for returning to a full points playoff system reached fever pitch. Critics argue the current format completely disregards multi-time winners during the regular season, protesting against what they see as a lack of merit in the 12-year-old system. The present playoff format lets 16 drivers into the playoffs, then forces them to survive through 3 elimination rounds of 3 races each. This structure was designed to increase TV ratings and create Game 7 moments, but it's also sparked fierce resistance from fans and drivers who believe it undermines seasonal performance. However, SVG just illuminated exactly why the current system still works, and his reasoning centers on one driver who's become the perfect test case. Shane Van Gisbergen revealed his surprising support for Brad Keselowski's playoff push. Speaking on a Stacking Pennies episode, SVG drew a direct parallel between his own journey and Keselowski's remarkable turnaround.
Like, obviously my championship position's running now, but when I first won the race I was 32nd or something, so I can see why, but I really want Brad Keselowski to win a race because he was like 30th as well at the time, and it would have been interesting to see what people thought about that because he's a champion, right?
Right.
And he could run pretty deep in the playoffs. So
this statement carries enormous weight. SVG experienced his own dramatic reversal of fortune, starting as a non-factor in the first half of 2025 before grabbing 3 consecutive road course victories at Mexico City, Chicago, and Sonoma. Now he's watching Keselowski follow a remarkably similar path. The 2012 Cup Series champion currently sits 19th in championship standings with 4 top 5s and 7 top 10s. Keselowski's dual role as RFK Racing owner and driver of the number. 6 Ford makes his playoff situation particularly compelling. If he can secure a trophy in the next 3 weekends, he'll jump directly into the playoffs, exactly the kind of dramatic storyline that validates SVG's perspective on the current format.